What are we talking about? Hey,
Hey,
hey, welcome. It is SVT time. Welcome, everyone. It is Tuesday, January 28th. I feel like I'm screaming in my microphone today.
Yeah,
but
sound great here.
I apologize if I'm over projecting. Hey, Dom, what episode is this?
I'm going to guess this is 70.
Maybe Rachel or Paul can tell us. Seeing this is actually, I'm
78.
I'm not going to say what episode it is. I'm going to wait for somebody to guess what episode it is. Anyways, welcome everyone. It is SVT time. Obviously, we don't have a guest today. It's just Dom and myself and our beautiful faces and
you all out there are the guests
and everybody out there, Rachel, Paul, everybody else that is going to be chiming in. Yeah, it's kind of a NAMM follow-up. We've got some cool things we're going to share with you regarding merch, and some stuff from NAMM that we're going to. Rachel says episode 80. Didn't we have 75 not so long ago? You're right, we did.
Yeah,
you're close. It's actually episode 78.
I was right. Good guess.
There you go. So
and Monday now.
Yeah. I'll you win a hoodie.
Yeah. There we go.
No. Speaking of hoodies and merch, see how I just like that.
Good segue.
We have, just so everybody knows, we have a new merch company that we are working with called Plugins. Great bunch of folks. They actually do the jack racks, and let me see if I can share my screen here. Give me a second. If I can.
Hello, Dave from England.
Okay, so this company is called Jack Racks, and at the risk of sharing stuff on my screen that I don't want to share, I'm going to try and do this. Slides and PDFs, extra camera, video files, share screen. Okay, bear with me, guys. I think this is. Why isn't this doing it? Hold on. Oh, here we go.
You got it?
Yep. Here we go.
Oh.
So Jack Racks, they're the folks that they did the Marshall little plug-in jack thing and the Fender thing. Well, guess what? They're doing Ampeg now, or we're doing Ampeg, or there is an Ampeg jack rack now, so you can hang your keys on your Ampeg. I don't know, you can call it a V4 or an SVT. But they're also doing merch for us.
You can see all those different categories there. It's going to be some goodies in each of them.
Here, let me let's go to tops here.
This is just the initial drop, and they're going to have tons
and this is live right now. I mean, anybody can go on there and order this stuff. So sweatshirts, t-shirts, jackets, hoodies.
The link is ampegmerch.com.
That is correct. And let me put that up here right now. Give me a second. There we go.
So even this windbreaker you see here can be on there.
So that's here. I'll leave the link up there for a little bit. Let me stop sharing my screen here. So yeah, why isn't here it is. So that's exciting. We have new merch, easily shippable. So we're not handling any of that anymore. And of course, if there's something that you guys want to see other than hoodies and t-shirts, whatever it is, just you drop us a note here or go to IdeaScale and drop us a note there. But all the usual suspects will be there: hoodies, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats,
mugs,
coffee cups, mugs. Yeah. I think there's even some leftover guitar straps on there as well. Does the merch ship to the UK? I believe it does.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I believe it does. Yeah, I think it's international now, Dave. So, we've gotten over that obstacle too. So, it's like I said, it's a company that we're working with. Actually, this is this is the company called Plugins, and just like I said, just a great bunch of folks. We've been working on this for a couple couple months now, and we just kind of solidified it at NAMM. So, dude, what did you see at NAMM that really kind of, and we'll get to the Ampeg stuff here in a little bit too, but like what really jumped out at you at NAMM, this particular NAMM show?
I don't know that there was something, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I keep trying to think, and it was like there were a few bases that I wanted to see and like get my hands on and actually play through Fender. That was appointment only, so you couldn't actually get in there. I saw the Camus pedal was kind of cool. That was probably the biggest thing that caught my eye. But yeah, there wasn't like a whole lot of revolutionary, groundbreaking stuff. It actually kind of felt like this was a comeback year for a lot of people in terms of the booths and the lack of, NAMM used to always be just like extravagant.
Yeah.
Booth setups and extravagant, gimmicky kind of things, but yeah, there wasn't anything, at least in terms of breaking revolutionary. There were definitely a few gorgeous spaces that I've saw in various booths all over.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Daryl's bases.
Yeah.
The Jones bases.
Yeah.
One of our guys. Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're expensive and rightfully so. I think they're all kind of hand built as any hand built bass should be kind of pricey. But Jones
Mustang bass that they had was really cool. It had like a leather pick guard.
Yeah.
Played great.
And it's good to see like more, like somebody like, Daryl Jones building his own basses and like having a go at it too, you know.
Tellys and Strats too.
Yeah, and guitars as well. Yep, that's true. I gotta say, like the highlight for me, so there were two highlights, obviously. Vincent Garcia.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Was just absolutely smoke. And there, I know there's clips circulating right now. We'll probably be sharing some clips on the Ampeg site as well, but he was just on fire.
Yeah.
And he just, to me, he makes it look too easy. Like what he does, he makes it look too easy.
I kept thinking about like he traveled internationally, and then you just have on top of that all the NAMM cobwebs of just getting up early, walking around, taking forever to get into the show, and like, which all, by the way, that experience this year was actually pretty streamlined and pretty easy. Just like shout out to the NAMM staff. They, in terms of like getting in and out and everything, it seemed like a little bit of less obstacles than years past. That, but I was thinking about like he does all that, and then you're getting on stage at like 11 a.m. local time, and just absolutely like I was thinking like he had zero nerves about him. Like wasn't like drinking coffee. He just walked up, did his thing. And, I was telling a friend that I was as impressed by the compositions as I was by his playing.
Yeah,
the songs themselves they're really well crafted, and a lot of that stuff being so busy and rhythmic, I think, can get fatiguing after a while to listen to. But he does a really good job of having other parts to contrast, and it's funny because I was having a conversation with somebody earlier Saturday, I think it was, and we were talking about Vincent, and they were kind of blown away by Vincent too. And I was like, man, I don't want to work that hard. I mean, granted, I'm probably quarter groove.
Yeah, I'm probably 30 years older than Vincent, but yeah, it was just. But again, like I think it was Hutch was saying too. We were talking about that. And it was kind of, we were talking about that style of playing and the style of playing that we came up in, back when we were young, and it's very indicative of the lifestyle that everybody leads today. Like if you really think about it, you listen to Vincent, and there's a lot of players that are coming out kind of like Vincent, but Vincent was kind of the first dude to come out and just have his own unique style in that style of playing. But it's very indicative of the lifestyles we lead today, like kind of hectic, always on top of things, like a million things going at once, video games, phones, this, that, the other thing. And if you think about how old he is, he's coming up in that life, I guess, if you will.
With social media too, like a lot more like center focused or self-focused in terms of playing at home and like I can post this, I can post that.
Yeah.
You know, and who knows with even COVID too, of like just keeping people kind of isolated to playing.
Yeah. And that's how he got his start too. I mean, he kind of was an Instagram sensation and grew his Instagram channel, and then more and more people started taking notice. He got the gig with Corey Wong, and hey, we got a couple of new viewers here too. Bandit Biker, and Cameron Leslie. So welcome all. This is what we do. Like I said, it's when we don't have a guest artist, which sometimes we just want to have a conversation with Dom and I and everybody here. So and
I will say, like, Dino and I, every time we get off of an SVT time, we talk about how this is kind of the highlight of what we do and the actual community. And to shout out to Dino, because you've never seen somebody hold down a NAMM show like Dino. And I'm telling you, it's like you might as well just have a 3-4 day meet and greet at the Ampeg booth and just like advertise it as such to meet Dino. Like you've cultivated such an awesome artist community over the years, and it's just really cool. All those people have become family to me just because through you, and it's been a huge blessing.
Well, thank you. That truly means a lot, and it really is. Like, I don't know if you saw my Facebook post, but I kind of admitted, like, going into the show, I had a lot of reservations just with everything that's going on with the fires in LA, my wife being sick. It was just kind of like my head wasn't in the game. In fact, I was kind of miserable on the way to the airport. Like my Rachel was even like, "What is wrong with you? Like, you're usually pretty excited about going to NAMM." And man, as soon as the first day, like as soon as I walked into the convention center, it was like right back at you. And and that's it. This is our community. This is the family that we've developed, and this is another part of the family. Everybody here that chimes in and watches SVT time, and it's just community. It's I don't know. It's kind of strange. Like I kind of model it after, and this is a complete left turn, but I kind of model after like the motorcycling community. Yeah. Like you have BMW riders that they all stick together and they're all their sort of faction. And then of course you have the Harley riders that, it doesn't matter where you're going as long as you're going on a motorcycle. It's just that community, So I try and model the Ampeg family or community the same way. Like there's no agenda here other than just play bass and so.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of just in their own right, like fascinated with the instrument and like, that's what's it doing for you? What's it doing for you? That's kind of the vibe.
And it's cool because like, especially, and I will say this, I think NAMM, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's pretty much open to the public nowadays. Like, I mean, there's some curveballs that you have to throw to get a badge, but for the most part, it's open to the public. So anybody that's watching this, by all means, if you can get to Anaheim in January, I highly like make a vacation of it. I hate to say like bring the family because
do a day at Disneyland and then
well that's just it. It's like you can do 2 days at NAMM and then do 2 days at Disneyland, which is walking distance from NAMM. So you can potentially bring the family on a family vacation and do NAMM. If my wife sees this, she is absolutely going to slap me.
So you might need a vacation after that vacation, but
yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like so, and I did that one year where Rach and the kids came out, and we did Disney after NAMM. You don't do Disney before NAMM.
Yeah.
You do it after NAMM. At least for me, it worked out doing Disney after NAMM because it was just kind of like a blow off steam thing, and you kind of already warmed up to walking around Disney after being at NAMM for 3 days is literally a walk in the park.
Yeah.
Like it's like, man, I just survived 3 days at NAMM. I can do 2 days at Disney.
Yeah. So, Cameron had a great question. Do you have a 10-inch speaker preference? Wanting to beef up my 210 to 400 watts. It depends on weight as well, I would say.
Yeah.
I really like, if you're going lightweight and you want Neo, I would say go La Voce. They have a lot of great options, and that's what we stock our venture cabs with, as well as just venture for the 10s. And then in terms of if you're kind of going more, it sounds like you want to go beefier, so maybe you don't care about weight so much because it's a 210 as well. Eminence is always a great stop for that.
Yeah. Eminence is always kind of my first go-to.
Yeah,
but I got to tell you though, the Lavoches they're doing some amazing things, and they're doing some great things for us in the venture cabs. So
Also, just want to reiterate, anybody on here on any of the socials where you're listening, feel free to hit us with any questions. Hit us with, if you were at the NAMM show, what were exciting things that you saw? Do you have product ideas? Do you have, cries of anguish and complaints? We'll take them all right now.
Cries of anguish. We always have cries of anguish. For Ampeg, this is a couple of things. We're back in our own, I won't say our own room, but we're back in the Yamaha Guitar Group room, which traditionally we would always share a room with Line 6. Actually, it was just Ampeg and Line 6. We would have our own room with our own performance stage. And then COVID happened, shut NAMM down. And then when COVID started, when we came back after COVID, we were sharing a spot in what I call the Yamaha Kingdom. Yamaha has this ginormous ballroom where they display everything from band and orchestra and they gave us our little space, but we had to adhere to their kind of performance rules, and we couldn't make a lot of noise, and we only had limited space. This is the first year where we were back in our own room with Line 6, and of course Cordoba and Guild now too. But we also had our performance stage where, we had Vincent was an Ampeg artist and a Yamaha artist, and then we had Paul Hindmarsh come up and demo some Line 6 stuff, and Guild and Cordoba had their artist Shane. I don't remember what Shane's last name
Alexander,
was.
I believe.
Alexander, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of cool. Like I think we could have used a bigger room.
Yeah.
But slowly but surely.
Though that was kind of nice. It never felt like bare and boring.
Yeah. No, it was definitely never barren. I will say that. And then like I was going to say, the other thing, getting back to that point, the other highlight was we had a surprise guest on Thursday night with Victor Wooten coming in and giving his words of wisdom. There's
such a good pep talk.
Yeah, man. It was like, so Guild is now partnering with DR Strings and on all the US made Guild guitars, they're using the Dragon Skin strings, which I'm actually a Dragon Skin adoptee too.
Yeah.
I switched brands when they sent me the Dragon Skins, but Victor came in to just kind of wish everybody well and kind of consummate the marriage between DR and Guild. But he started talking about relationships, man. That's where I started getting kind of emotional.
Yeah.
It's, like he said, you can love or hate a product, but if you don't get along with the people that you're doing business with that product, you're not going to do business with them. You're not going to endorse them. It's like, and it's not so much, I don't like that person, so I'm not going to endorse it. It's more like, you know what? Like, you and I have been hanging out for the last 35 NAMM shows. It's like, regardless if you're a string manufacturer or bass manufacturer, I'm going to come visit you on the holidays, or we're going to get together when I'm in your neck of the woods and sit down and have dinner, whether I endorse you or not, or you endorse me.
Yeah.
And that was the premise of the conversation, man. That really reminded me of why I was at NAMM, not so much to pitch products,
Totally agreed. It was like the highlight of family and how, there's synergy between Guild and DR back in the day. And then they did an A/B comparison against former strings. I'll just leave it at that. And not that, like, you would hear the A comparison and you're like, oh man, that sounds really, really good. The difference though between that and the Dragon Skin was unbelievable. It was like night and day. So yeah, I got 3 packs already, and I'm gonna start restringing all
I think I was out putting out fires when they were doing the demonstrations. But I did happen to snag a couple of sets of strings.
Nice.
So if you get a chance, check them out. Yeah, so like I said, if you guys can get to LA in January or Anaheim in January, by all means check out NAMM. It's it is amazing. If anything, just to like see the after party shows and the performances. I know we had and we didn't go for different reasons, but the Bass Magazine Awards were, I know they were honoring Sting and they were honoring Pino, both of whom had to drop out for personal. Sting was sick, and I think Pino had some family things he needed to deal with back home. But where else can you go and see Steve Bailey and Victor Wooten and Marcus Miller and Justin Chancellor? I guess Tool did a performance.
And then you see Tool too. Yeah,
like the whole Tool performance.
Awesome. Yeah,
Les Claypool and Freak Bass, I guess, or not Freak Bass, Mono Neon. I always get the two confused because I got to think like fur and boas versus crochet.
Yeah.
But
Richard Ralph, can you elaborate on Dragon Skin strings? I'm a country bass player looking for something to be my new standard. That would probably work really well. They're comparing against one of the things about the Dragon Skins is they're all round core, which they were explaining basically round core versus hex core.
Yep.
Basically, like everything in music, it's like typically an actual smooth surface circle is going to resonate more and have more, I guess, symmetrical or just less harsh frequency resonation. And then on top of that, there's actually grooves in that round core where the string windings sit inside. So it kind of like is all really, really solid. There we go. Look at that. Actually paid attention to this presentation.
I'm impressed.
And then you can attest to the feel of them, because most coated strings, people, they kind of, I mean, including myself included, over time, like the way they shed is kind of weird. Historically, like the DRs actually don't do that. Vic was talking about that, and then Shane Alexander was also talking about that in terms of acoustic guitar. But you've used DR for a little while now, so
yeah, it's what they're calling it accurate core technology, and basically what it is the wrap that goes around the core has grooves in it, so that the wrap strings, the core has wraps on the core itself. And then the strings sit in those. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, there you go.
But then the winding itself, the string winding is wrapped. So I guess like a normal, for like the old technology strings like Elixir was, they would make the string and then they put the wrap over the entire string, and that would eventually fray and wear off. And whereas the components like the core and the winding are individually wrapped, and then the string is manufactured out of that. But I'm using, standard gauges. I like a little bit of a heavier B string than this. This is a 125. I usually use a 130, but everything else is standard 105, 85, 65, and 45. And then these are the stainless.
Yeah, you mostly stainless or nickel, or you kind of go back and forth?
Stainless.
Okay.
Mostly stainless. It depends on the bass too. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
It's like if it's an old jazz bass, generally nickel to me sounds better on a passive jazz bass than stainless. But if you go, it really is preference, but I do prefer stainless. I've always used stainless.
I prefer nickel, and it's mostly a feel more than sound thing, like the texture of the nickel.
Yeah.
A bit more. But I'm excited for the I saw they announced the Ernie Balpino flat wounds.
Yep.
And I'm always kind of hopping around between labellas and different flats, and I'm curious what other people prefer for flats. But I'll definitely be checking out those Pino Ernie Ball flats. I like Ernie Ball strings.
Yeah. Yep. Everybody, it's funny because, and again, it comes down to relationships. I mean, it's like everybody makes a good string.
Yeah.
There's no
technology is so good that it's hard to get a bad one. But ratio, I agree. Steel feels like a cheese grater a little bit to my hands.
Well, exactly. But
so working with string.
and I like cheese, so there you go. But no, it really, again, it comes down to relationships. And guys, anybody that's like, talk a little bit about endorsements. First off, companies do not endorse artists. Artists endorse the company, hands down. You know what I mean? Like if you look at our artist roster, yes, we endorse them. Obviously, we support them, but for the most part, they endorse us as a brand. But it comes down to the relationship. Like for instance, I was, for a while there, I was endorsing Dean Markley Strings for years because I had a great relationship with their artist relations guy.
Yeah.
He left. I ended up going to DR Strings. To Diodario Strings. And again, because it was a relationship, I knew Hugh from Diodario, worked with him for a bunch of years. He left, didn't really have anybody, they still treated you right, but you don't have that personal relationship where you walk up at a NAMM show, hey dude, what are you doing later on?
Totally.
Let's go grab a drink or let's grab a cup of coffee or,
Yeah.
And then when this all went down, actually it was Dave Avenius, one of the two Daves from Aguilar, who is now with DR Strings, reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in trying out these dragon skins? Sent me a set, and as they say, the rest is history. And then this whole guild thing went down. I was like, it just makes sense. Like we have a personal relationship with the brand. So
I will say this is like self-gratuitous as a YGG comment, but one of the things that stood out to me this name, it sounds so silly, is like obviously play the Starfire 2 a good bit, is that freaking Pelham Blue Starfire 1. Like I'm gonna have to get it. It looks and sounds great, and the price point's insane.
Yeah.
Insane. So we got a nice little question here from Cameron. You've got a last minute gig, and it's fly dates. What's on your fly rig board? Man, this is such a good question. And I posted something the other day that was like, jokingly, it's like a guy just laying in bed and he's dreaming. It's like what people think you're thinking of, and then you're like, I have to swap the drive and compression on my board. That's exactly right. I was gonna say it depends on the gig. That at minimum, I'm bringing SGTDI, and that's gonna cover everything. Except HX Stomp is just so good to have next to it. But the problem is, I don't want, if it's a fly date kind of thing, I don't know that I would want to bring an actual board. I would probably bring those separate, and just have them oriented on the floor or whatever
suitcase.
But to have like compression, octaver, maybe chorus, all on the HX Stomp, and maybe some gain staging switching for different basses on that, and then throw that into the SGTDI. It's always SGTDI for me at the end of the line.
Yeah.
At the end of
as it should be. Just like if you were running effects into the front of your amp.
Right.
This is your amp, and you put all your effects in front of it, and then out in front of house. But that's a great question, because I'm flying down to Nashville in February for a couple of dates, and then March back. So that's been on the back of my mind. It's like, do I bring this in my HX Stomp? Do I just bring this, or do I bring my HX Stomp? And it all depends on, do I need effects with the gig that I'm doing? And if I do, then I'll probably bring my HX Stomp. If I don't, then I'm bringing this or both. I might just bring both, and so I was just if I need to travel light, no backline, Fractal FM3. If there is backline, Fractal VP4. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really familiar with the Fractal.
Yeah, I mean,
pieces, but I'm assuming they're
interface wise. My brain doesn't immediately. It's not immediately intuitive to me, but sonically, it's great. All the Fractal stuff.
Yeah, and the Fractal guys are right up the street from me here in New Hampshire.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Dave's using the Tomastic flats. Man, those are definitely incredible. I have a set of those on. Like I have a BSX bass, like 3/4 upright. And I don't think I've changed those strings in like 4 or 5 years, and they just still sound incredible.
On your BSX, right? Yeah. They're expensive too, though. But everybody that uses them says you buy them once, and you really don't ever have to change them again unless you break a string or you've got some kind of funk in your sweat. You know what I mean? Just acid hands.
Yep.
Hey, speaking of uprights, we had we had that silent bass, the Yamaha silent bass in our booth. I threatened some of my friends over at Yamaha. To, no,
Yeah,
they were
you
great.
know, SVT tell them, put like one right here. You know.
Well, I mean, they were gracious enough after all these years to finally give us a silent bass to put in the booth, man. I got to say, I think that bass got played more than any of the electric basses through
Totally
the event.
agree. Yeah. And eventually I threw it through an RB 108, and I could not get over how that's all you would need at a gig.
Yeah.
Maybe an RB 110 if you want the DI out, but that 8 was totally fine for enough low end there.
I agree. It's probably the most natural upright electric upright. You know what I mean? Because I used to have a BSX, and I've got right now I've got a kid bass, and I know the Steinberg is a lot of times they sound beautiful, but sometimes they sound too much like just a big fretless bass versus that initial fundamental that you get from an acoustic body sort of thing. And the Yamaha seem to have that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, close your eyes, like that sounds like my BSX sounds more like a fretless than an upright compared to that sound. I mean, it was like it just had those punchy, almost like staccato nature of the notes that made it feel very upright, like full body upright. I'm curious because we were talking about different cabs, and Vincent played through the V12 into the VB88, the 8x8, and it's you know, admittedly, on like every time I talk about cabs, that's my favorite cab, and you know, I'm incredibly biased, but I'm curious if anyone on here would be interested in seeing a Neo version of an 810, or whether that would just like freak people out.
Good question. Yeah.
Because there's tons of benefits, obviously weight being the biggest. But if there was an 810 that just kind of was slightly different than our SVT in terms of having Neo drivers, maybe a horn, maybe not. Just curious if there's a redundancy there, whether we would even need that, because that's basically what the VB88 is serving.
Yeah. The other question you have to ask, or the other thing you have to figure out is, if you were to just take an 810 cab and reload it with Neos instead of the normal ferrite, how much of a weight savings would that be?
Yeah.
That's the big question. Because if you're still roughly around 100 pounds, you know, because an existing 810 cab with normal eminence drivers is, I think, 145 pounds.
Yeah.
146.
Yeah.
So if you're eliminating 40 pounds, but you're still at 100 pounds,
is that an advantage? Yeah.
Yeah, it's still an advantage, you know, whereas the VB88 is, what is it, 64 pounds?
64, yeah.
64 pounds. Man, that cabinet just sounds killer.
It really does. It really does.
It just sounded killer, man. I got to figure out a way to convince my boss to give me one. I wonder how much people would be into a Neo version of the 1540. Great question.
Yeah.
Great question. Because that is requested, Dom.
Yeah.
We do get requests for the 1540. And ironically,
15. So I get it.
Yeah, and I did not know this, but if anybody can comment who the artist was that was the catalyst to Ampeg originally doing the 1540, you'll get a kudos from me.
Nice.
I can't say I'll give you a t-shirt, but I would.
I have so many guesses. Yeah.
Oh, that's Haji that suggested that. Haji, you're disqualified.
I like it. I'm also curious if anybody is using like tiny power amps on their pedal board. You know, is that an actual? I mean, obviously, I've seen it in guitar land a little bit here and there, way less so in bass. You know, is there enough of an advantage where you want to take up the real estate on your pedal board for a little bit of a power module?
Well, I guess that kind of ties into the question of, you know, like Rachel and Cameron are asking, like, if you are doing a fly date, are you bringing your full pedal board, or are you just bringing a couple of pieces in lieu of what they have there? you know. So if you are bringing your pedal board, yeah, a little portable power amp might.
It does like bring up the point too, where if you had a V3 versus an SGTDI, it's kind of like sonically does the same thing. If you minus the IR loading that the V3 doesn't have, but if you're going through a cab that's already supplied, or you're just going DI out, you know, is it more advantageous? I guess, yeah, I don't know, because size wise, it's not much bigger.
John was saying that would depend on the quality of the Neo, of course. Fatale Pro and Sika speakers as well. Yeah, absolutely.
The 212 AV, you know what you could do instead is do what Dino did. Get a Venture 212, VB212, and have Mark at Vintage Blue. Right, he's the one who gave you the AV grills.
Well, yeah. What I had 2 single 12s.
Oh, singles, right? Okay.
And I put the AV grills on them and did it that way. But I still have the 212 AV cab too. That
same question. I'm curious if you know you pop, because it's right. I can't do this. No. Right there. I can never be a weatherman.
It's right there.
If you pops Neo drivers in that, how much you'd actually save on weight? I'm not sure, because that cab is pretty thick, and that might be a bulk of the weight.
Yeah, because the 212 comes in at
38. I want to say
the Venture 212. Yes,
yeah. No, that's like 70 pounds. The AV.
Yeah, the 212 is about as heavy as the VB88 is.
Yeah,
I want to say is the same weight.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's in the 60s.
But yeah, it'd be interesting, you know, because like I said, obviously the Venture cabs have a little bit of magic in the materials too, in the wood with the Falcata.
Yeah.
Versus poplar, and poplar is a light wood too. But yeah, I'd be curious to see what the weight savings would be on an A10 going to Neo, and probably the 212 going to a Neo. You know, do we have any Neos laying around?
I do. The other question, it's like, it's not, well, obviously it's not all about weight. Like there's a natural, shout out to Anthony Fregoso when we were working on the Levoce cabs, or Levoce drivers in the Venture cabs. We were comparing to SVT, and there is a natural distortion and excursion and everything that happens with the SVT Eminence woofers that give it like that signature SVT sound.
Mm-hmm.
So you would probably lose that a little bit if you're just, you know, swapping. It's not going to be an apples to apples sonic comparison.
Yeah.
There is something, it's almost like tube versus solid state. You know, there's just that little, no matter how good you get with solid state, there's that little incremental kind of analog warmth that isn't there.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just different. Yeah, it's just depending on what sound you're going for.
I've said it for years that, you know, part of the traditional Ampeg sound, the classic Ampeg sound, was a combination of, you know, obviously the SVT and the circuitry and the heads, but Birch cabinets and Eminence drivers.
Yeah.
But given that, you know, that's back when an 810 cab was 165 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, and then when they went to Ultraspan, I think that shaved a little bit of weight. But then when they went to poplar cabs instead of birch, and thinned out the material a little bit, the sound changed. But of course, you're saving. You know, you can lift an 810 cab easier than I have like this cab right there is. Here I go again. That cab right there. Yeah, that is an old birch cabinet, and I want to I don't even like wheeling that thing around on the wheels.
I was gonna say, can you get the thing up the stairs?
I have to. No, actually, I can't. I have to have help with that, because like the cab next to it, that is an Ultraspan cab. That's 19 millimeter, and the way I get that up the stairs here, the back stairs, is I literally flip it end over end.
Okay.
Like I'll lay it on its back, then I'll flip it up, and you know, rather than going ka-junk, ka-junk, ka-junk all the way up the stairs with, I'll just flip it. But yeah, it is definitely a sound to it. Like these two cabs sound completely different. Granted, one is 50 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
And so,
I love Cameron's question about favorite sound check riff. I think we should add that to our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
That's a very cool niche, like would say a lot about somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have a go-to.
Favorite riff is the intro to Big Country by Bella Fleck. Interesting.
Nice.
You get sound check?
I'm the same, man. I SGTDI, the effects return. I'll go like power amp in basically from preamp out of the SGTDI into an amp, and it's good to go.
Yeah. But if your amp doesn't have a power amp in, then effects return is the way to go too. Absolutely. Yeah, I think I did that. I did that a couple of times this summer on tour with Albert. In fact, one of them was a trainer head.
Okay. Yeah, those sound great.
It was a great amp. I mean, there was no reason to bypass the preamp on it other than I wanted my sound. But yeah, it was a great amp, all tube trainer head.
Ben Adrian, shout out to Ben Adrian, sound design for Line 6 and Yamaha Guitar Group. He worked a lot, pretty much on all the Helix stuff, and showed me that one day, and I was like hoping one day that would make it into Helix. I don't think it ever did, but it sounded great. Yeah.
Man, so Dave is saying Rocket Ride by Kiss. Okay, so here's a challenge, and this isn't official yet, but I think we're going to have to do a challenge of people playing their favorite soundcheck riff, whether it's in an SGTDI, whatever Ampeg rig you're playing through. But we want to hear your favorite soundcheck riff, post it on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and tag us, and we'll find a way to share it. I think that'd kind of be cool to hear everybody's favorite soundcheck riff.
Love that.
I gotta say, mine is probably when I do get typically when we get sound checks, it's usually like I'll play 3 different ways: fingers, slap, and then pick, because those are the 3 elements that I'll use on the gig. And it's literally just open E, open A, open D, open G. Then we go into a sound check with the song, but I don't usually play a riff when we're sound checking, because I know the sound guy front of house doesn't want to hear me playing a riff. He just wants to get a line check basically, but
he wants to do the time tested. The one response I've gotten from every sound guy ever in life is like, that sounds like a bass.
That and
always that phrase.
And I'll never forget, we were setting up for a NASCAR event, and he checked drums, and again, this is April's gig, the country rock, and after everybody sound checks, we get our ears more dialed in and everything, and after sound check, I go, "Hey, you gonna do the bass?" He goes, "Oh, I got you." I was like, "What do you mean you got me?" He says, "Well, while you were dinking around with everybody else," he says, "I got you're all set." I was like, "No, there's no possible way."
It's a testament to SGTDI. It's just that.
But
that's it.
And I gotta say, and I told him, I says, "Dude, if this doesn't sound good, you and I are not going to be on speaking terms after this gig." And it was probably some of the best front of house bass sound I had in front of house. But anyways,
part of my recommendation for people to have wireless units is to walk out front for 2 seconds and check sound. And I know most sound people would not be happy with me sharing that, but I don't know. It's even if you don't even use it for the gig, just have it there enough to like walk out front. And it's not just for you either. It's like just hearing the band and just kind of having like 1 or 2 little touch points of, vocals could probably come up 3 dB, bass is not cutting, this and that. Some people love getting feedback from the
other. Yeah.
It is helpful to at least, or have peace of mind about it. I don't know.
But it's funny. I remember seeing Phil Susan was in town doing a sound check with Last in Line, and Phil's got ears, and Phil comes from an engineering background.
He's a producer engineer,
and it was funny, like as they were sound checking, like Phil is telling the front of house and the monitor guy what frequencies to boost and by how many dB,
Yeah.
and and granted, these, the guys are looking at it like, who the hell are you to tell me what the, and he's like, no, you need to bring down 4K on this by 2. And when you have somebody that is that knowledgeable, I guess you or at least acts like they're that knowledgeable,
Yeah.
you kind of listen to them. But I don't know.
That's my wife says I have now ruined live events and like anything that has music in it, because she's like, how'd you like, we saw Hamilton and Broadway, and I was like, yeah, I just really wish the mix had this and that. She's like, can't take you anywhere.
Cameron, yeah, you get about 3 seconds of sound check before there you go. Okay, that sounds more realistic, I guess.
Here's my next question for the group here. If Ampeg was to do a single stomp pedal, any pedal of your choice, any effector, like something based off of a historic pedal or whatever you want, what would be your choice if you had one pedal that Ampeg can make next? It's got to be a single stomp. It can't be a multi.
Sorry, I got something stuck in my throat there. Let's see. Bring back the Sub Blaster. See? Ross.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ross. Reissue the VH140C.
I'm not familiar.
Guitar amp.
Okay. Oh, yeah. No, yep. I am, yeah.
Yep. And the C was for chorus, I believe. But yeah, it was a killer guitar amp. Octaver from the SVT5 Pro.
Nice.
The presses are always fun. One huge octave. See, that's.
I agree.
Octave, or I mean, we've never done it, but an envelope filter too would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool. I got this thing. I know. I tried. I'm trying this. This is the Neil Jason pedal by C.
Oh, that looks awesome.
It's a little funky. Yeah. If anybody,
what is that?
What's that?
What is it? Envelope filter?
Yeah, it's kind of like an envelope filter, but it's very touchy on, like, it doesn't work well with active basses and it does not work well with flats.
Oh,
so like a passive P or a passive J, which anybody that knows Neil Jason, studio guy, famous studio guy from Neil, was somebody that Will Lee used to look up, look up to in that respect. But yeah, he's a jazz guy, jazz bass guy in the New York scene. But this was his, I guess this is a reissue of an old Sea Moon pedal. But yeah, it's kind of funky. It's just you gotta learn how to use it. But
ultra mid, I love that. I love that idea.
I
tried to put mid into, I want to say that was Venture, and then we came up with the sweepable mid circuit, and I was like, okay, that works. But ultra mid, that was on the old, wasn't that on some old Rocket Bass combos? Ultra mid, and then maybe some pros back in the day.
It had low mid and high mid controls. Okay. Yeah. Ultra mid, another famous bass amp company just came out with an ultra mid pedal.
Really? Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I see that.
Yeah. Higher gain distortion. Interesting, man. Yeah. They are. You're pushing that VH140C, man. I got you.
Is that basically like an Ampeg tube? It was a tube. Was it a version of like the JC120 kind of thing?
Yeah. It was. I actually, if you guys remember, probably about 10 years ago, 15 years, probably about 10 years ago, Ampeg did the
riveting
guitar amps. They were supposed to be reissues of the VHs. GVT. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry. The GVT was supposed to be a reissue of the VT40. That's what it was, not the VH140. But yeah, there were certain things that we couldn't do, and we couldn't call it a certain way, But that was supposed to be a VT40 and VH140C. They're heavy as heck, though.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. Which again, let's man up and lift an amplifier every now and then.
There's something to be said about that, actually.
There's something to be said about carrying your own damn SVT into your club.
Yeah,
You know?
there's part of me with the VB88 that I actually felt like was sacrilegious of Ampeg and like the rite of passage of a bassist, where it's like, you're now a bassist, you've carried an 810 up and down stairs.
Richard Ralph, I have an original Ampeg Tube DI box that I sadly never use, I guess because of the size. Sounds amazing though. Richard, put that
Rust. How about modernizing the SVT Tube DI? I will say that is our most requested product on Idea Scale.
Yeah.
We're listening. That's all I'll say.
Yep, we're listening and we're talking. Yeah. I've got, just so you know, I mean, not that I'm a big pedal board guy, but I have an SVT DI on every single one of my pedal boards that I take live.
Which again sounds incredible, and it instantly makes every one of those pedal boards not a fly rig.
Yeah, no, it is instantly not a fly. It's the DI is not even a fly DI. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's more of a weapon than anything.
It is a weapon, absolutely. But yeah, I've got an SVT or the mic pre here in the studio. But yeah, it's a great DI. Let's see, bring it back, modernizing the SVT tube. Yeah, okay. All my amps are 100 watts plus. They aren't human, man. What kind of music are you playing? Just curious.
Yeah.
Because any guitar player that's cruising around with a 100-watt guitar amp has my respect and my earplugs.
You know what I would love to see? I would love to see some kind of limited edition of like a pro combo that looks like the old BA combos with had like the old Ampeg under or lowercase logo that looked like almost like a baseball, baseball kind of thing, and then it had all the cool, like almost like paint spray.
Hutch called it the Jackson Pollock Tolex.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. That would be cool. Didn't Hutch have one of those? I think
Bobby Vega.
Oh yeah,
Hutch may have one too, but I know Bobby Vega had one. He brought it to a Bass Player Live event one year. Yeah, I mean the amp is 70 years old, 60 years old at the time. And I think the only thing he did was he changed out the speaker because the original speaker was all dried out and cracked, but he changed out the speaker and the thing sounded incredible.
Yeah.
It sounded like what I envision a bass amp is supposed to sound like.
Yeah.
So
really cool.
They aren't human. Death metal mostly. Yep. That VH140 is exactly in that genre, along with the Blue Voodoos that Crate used to do, and the Lee Jacksons, So
412.
So it looks like the octave pedal in the SVT DI, the tube DI, kind of
an ultra mid. The ultra mid is
an ultra mid
making a comeback. I like that.
Interesting. Yeah, ultra mid. Man. So how many people here have actually that are watching the show have been to NAMM and have experienced it? Just give us a hands up or whatever. But yeah, it's like I said, if you haven't gone, it's something as any musician should get a chance to go to. So I'm trying to think of anything else that we saw at the show that I didn't get a chance to walk around all that much. I think an Ampeg SVT4 Pro graphic EQ pedal.
Got a few responses for that too. I agree that the 4 Pro, that graphic EQ is amazing.
John knows what he's talking. Everybody here knows what they're talking about. John, anybody that knows John, he's helped a lot with presets for HX Stomp, and he's helped a lot of our artists with who I won't go into dropping names, but helped a lot of our artists with their HX Stomps and getting their sound in. I do appreciate John's input on this, but yeah, a graphic EQ, single stomp, 9-band graphic EQ. Absolutely. Nashville NAMM in 2016, right? I'm trying to think like anything else that like gear wise that that I saw a couple of people walking around with those Groove Gear capsules, gig bags that
Yeah.
have the rollers on them. That I thought those were kind of cool. They're pricey, but they were kind of cool. Where you have the base, and then the top panel flips over where you can stuff all
Yeah.
your luggage or your clothes in, and it's kind of all in one. I don't know if I want to be taking my dirty underwear to a gig, but
I actually really like the Anki. I think they're called Anki.
Yankees, yeah,
They're great.
yeah,
I've had those on tour before, and they've
yeah.
survived quite well.
Yep, Enki's, and I think Gator makes a version of it now too. But Enki was the originator of it, I believe. Of course, my friends at Michael Tobias Design, that's always a good booth to go by if you want to check out some custom bases.
I gotta say, I love the designs of the Labella bases. What are those called again? The
Olintos.
Olintos, yeah.
Yeah. That
It
was
felt
kind of
premium custom base was like the
yeah.
theme for this year's NAMM.
It seemed like high end jazz basses and P basses was kind of the vibe.
Yeah.
Like high end, on the level of Sadowski or Lakeland or anything like that, like $3,000-$4,000 jazz basses and P basses.
Yeah. I will say too, I feel like outside of NAMM, I feel like it would typically mostly live in the microcosm of NAMM, but the fan fret headless or fretless, extended string instrument or extended range bass is really making its way into the spotlight. I feel like more and more.
Yeah.
I think that has something to do with kind of the soloist nature of a lot of influencer players.
Yep. And I'll give credit to Sheldon Dingwall, who's
great bassist.
Great guy. Again, it comes down to relationships.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He's literally, from what I understand, he was in the booth, open to close, talking to people. He makes a great instrument. It just, comes down to, I think he was the first, Dingwall was the first to do like a multi-range bass, right? The fan fret.
Yeah.
And even his basses now are kind of, they're kind of simplifying down to the jazz format or the precision format style. They're not as wild looking as far as body shape and whatnot. So I've always wanted to go to NAMM and snag a sick NAMM bass. You'll snag something sick, because everybody that comes out of NAMM usually catches something. It's kind of like
call it NAMM-thrax.
Yeah, it's called NAMM-thrax for a reason. Everybody comes out usually sick or carrying something. John, I used to go to NAMM at the time. Last year was 2018. Too expensive to fly anymore. Gigs and kids keep. I can totally appreciate that, and if I was not working in the business, I would still go. I wouldn't go every year, but I would definitely, I would definitely go as often as I could. I made the mistake of bringing my wife to a NAMM show one year, and we almost got divorced. But
fortunately, when I brought Amy to the the NAMM show, it was the year that we had the Beast.
Oh, yeah.
It was a good impression.
That was like Ampeg's great return.
Yeah.
To NAMM,
I think.
2019.
Yeah.
That was NAMM 2019.
That was so fun. So fun. We were in the Marriott then, right?
Yeah, we were in. Yep. That was, like I said, that was kind of like, that was Yamaha right after they had purchased Ampeg to really make a splash and show how committed they are to the brand. So, yeah.
Here's a question: any producers or artists that you really want to see presets made for SVT Suite?
Good question.
Shout out to Sam Wang, sound designer and bassist extraordinaire at Ampeg and YGG.
Yep. And Haji, of course. Haji is your...
Tip my hat to Haji.
Customer service. Like, Haji knows, I say this jokingly, but I mean, he knows more about broken Ampegs than I do about working Ampegs. Let's put it that way.
He knows
But
what
no,
skeletons are hitting. He knows what part number the skeletons have.
yeah, it's when I have an artist that needs this a rubber foot for a cabinet, Haji's
Yeah.
the first person to like, oh, that's part number so and so, so and so, so and so. But he's also a great guy. He's knowledgeable, and he's always kind of the guy, the moderator behind SVT time, throwing up links to people's pages and whatnot too. So thank you, Haji, for doing that.
Yeah.
And I know we're right at the top of the hour here. And I know, we both kind of have to run. We kind of made it a point where we don't have an artist today, so we are gonna kind of cut it at the top of the hour so we can get going. But artists as well, man, just somebody. I think the last one that Dom and I did, somebody came out with some great suggestions on artists. So future artists that, again, NAMM had a chance to sit down and talk with people. Hey, you want to come on? So we've got, we do have Tim Storaci coming on SVT time, I think in March, from Why Not? And of course, also a Tech 21 user. So he's coming on. Haley Jane Batt is coming back for another visit to chat with us. Always great talking to Haley. Today was supposed to be Lee Hendricks from Eric Church, but again, he had a family emergency that he had to tend to, so he asked if we could postpone it. So we'll get Lee back on here. If there's anybody else, they don't, yes, we've of course always loved talking Ampeg to Ampeg artists, but they don't necessarily have to be an Ampeg artist. If it's a producer or anybody you wanna see us invite on, we'd be happy to reach out. And or if you guys have an in with them, let us know who they are, and maybe we can get them on here. So I think that's about it, guys. Thank you. Thanks everybody for chiming in.
Yeah, thanks for all your feedback. I'll have an octave pedal ready next week, and I'll do my best.
Yeah, right. We want to see an octave pedal.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Cameron.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. And we will be back. Technically, we're supposed to be back next week because it's the every other week. So technically, we are supposed to be back next week. If we can get Lee back next week, we'll just keep an eye on the Ampeg Facebook page, and we'll let you all know. All right. Until then, guys, be safe, have fun, play more bass, and Dom, I'll see you in the next meeting.
All right.